Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
It is 6 o'clock. Good evening and welcome to the Bellows Falls regular Village Trustee regular meeting. It's Tuesday, May 11th, 2021, and we are down here in the Town Hall Lower Theater. Thank you for those who are attending by Zoom. Let's see, let's call the meeting to order. And we'd like to approve the minutes of Tuesday, April 27, 2021. I do know we got a chance to see today online the April 13th, but we could wait till the next meeting to approve that with another set. Yeah, since we don't have them before us, we just have, and not everyone necessarily had time during their day to review them, so. Okay, so approve the minutes of April 27th. Need a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes of April 27th.
And a second. Anyway, all right, discussion on the minutes.
You say we are going to do it? Or
No, we're just going to do the April 27th today, and then our next meeting, we will do the April 13th and the ones from this meeting.
Okay, so the ones we're talking about are the last meeting.
Is the April 27th meeting? Yes, that's
Okay,
correct.
I have a correction.
What do you got?
Because I seconded it, by the way.
Yes, you did.
I read them. Trying to remember now. The section where we talked about the maintenance of the fire hydrants should say that it shouldn't, where it says policy, it mentions something about the policy. That should be, what was that?
It's not the it has to do with how the water department has.
Yeah, not insurance services policy. It should be the rate, our ISO rating,
ISO rating.
not policy. I think it says policy.
The credit on our policy.
Yeah, it should say that on our rating.
On our rating. Okay, so that's the change
Yeah.
of word, right? I understand. Okay. That would be the only, anyone else?
Well, the other comment I had, when we talked about the pump house at I suggested that there be a committee formed that would basically try to round up support. I mean, the idea,
Right.
the theory was that this is something worth preserving. Okay, so if it's worth preserving, we ought to get volunteers, somebody to head up a committee to take on that responsibility, and then that would mitigate how much the village would have to pay for things like painting and those types of things. So
Right. Well,
that was totally excluded from the.
Oh, that was your
from the
idea,
minutes.
was the committee. And we are going to be discussing it on item number 3, and I did get a phone call from the CLG yesterday.
Okay,
About it,
good.
so that will be further discussed. But yeah, that's what your idea was, to have a committee so we could reduce costs.
Exactly.
Costs, right. Anything further on the minutes of April 27th, 2021? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
As amended.
As amended, as amended. All that, please say aye.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, as amended. Additions to the agenda for routine administrative matters and/or pressing matters that will require ratification at a future meeting.
Nothing for tonight. The only thing is we'll have your updated financials with our updated statements for Friday for distribution.
For Friday.
For the Monday
distribution.
meeting. So they will be out. They're still working on some, and we'll talk about it as we go forward.
Okay. The only thing I would like to add is we need to, and we'll have to ratify afterwards, is to consider our summer schedule, because we have to vote on if we're going to meet once a month for June, July, and August. So we could put that as number 8. It shouldn't take long, but summer schedule. Okay, and then we'll have to ratify it at the following meeting. All right, public comment on items. I see newspaper reporters, but other than that, I guess there's no one else. Who's hosting tonight?
We're doing it from down here.
From here, okay.
Yep, and
All
I
right.
don't see anybody.
Okay, so I don't see anyone either.
No.
All right, so moving along, managers report. Scott.
So thank you. So we did get copies to everyone last week and have distributed copies of the annual report, the village report. If there's other locations that folks would like me to drop some off at, or other places you'd like distribution, please let me know. I'd be happy to do that. We still have some more left upstairs.
What places are there at now?
We did, I believe, we did the library, we did
Clerk's office, of course.
clerk's office, Lee size, but I don't know if there's any other locations that you'd like us to supplement. We did do a couple over there, but I
Okay,
could put them other places if you'd like. I do have some more left upstairs if there's any particular
I'm not sure. I mean,
spots.
maybe Kathleen would have some regular places that might go as well as
I mean,
that. but-
Rockingham Roasters, I suppose we could throw a few.
Yeah, I mean, the library, are people going into the library now?
Well, there's actually an outside container that's available, and then they put it out on the table every day.
I see.
And they're in there, so
Okay,
they're
so people are
protected from
taking
the
them from-
weather. People are taking them, so,
Okay,
yeah, there's tax forms and other stuff in there as well, so.
great, okay. Well, if you think of it. Oh, Pat usually, that's right.
I don't think I did that, so I'll make
So
sure.
Village
I do
Square
some for the
booksellers.
Village Square.
Okay, so people can look for those in those places. And then again, Lee size, where most people do their shopping around here, there'll definitely be some there. Somebody let us know if they run out.
Okay.
All right, anything else, Scott?
Just a couple things, working with Gary and our Chamber of Commerce and VIFTA and some of our other folks on putting together a summer schedule of events. I think, last year with COVID, there were quite a few normal events that were canceled, and I think people were, understanding because of the COVID situation. This year now, it appears that we're accelerating our reopening. We just got another update from the state saying that we're moving faster than they had anticipated, so there's going to be new changes as of June 1st. And they might even upgrade to 0 restrictions prior to the 4th of July, which had been their target date previously. So they're moving sort of week by week now in terms of requirements. So I think that's good news for the folks that are trying to organize events. I think they were sort of, concerned about, especially younger people, and the schedule of, people that are getting vaccinated that are, 16 years and younger. There's different doses for those folks. But it appears that at least a semi-normal schedule of events will be coming forward, including some Old Home Days activities in August. We've talked about a few other items throughout the fall as well. Gary's putting together a calendar. As soon as we have it finalized with dates and the hosting and the organizations, I'll make sure we distribute it so that everybody gets a chance to look at it. And I think it's a little bit of good news. And the other piece is, at some point we're working on reopening the Opera House. Probably we had originally targeted for later in June, but I think we might be trying to push it even a little earlier than that, to possibly when school lets out, which is, I think, the 14th or 15th, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at possibly reopening and having a schedule of events for that as well. So I guess that's all good news. We're also looking at our schedule in the building, and we'll be talking probably at our next meeting about some options that we think about as the restrictions are lifted, to sort of, rework our schedule back to, more traditional schedule. So we'll talk about that as well. So all in all, things are moving in a positive direction. The only other item that I'll just give the board a brief update on, and we still don't have good guidance, spent a lot of time today on Zoom calls and conference calls and follow-up calls with members of our congressional delegations, members of our senatorial staff, other people in state government, trying to find out where the money is in terms of the American Relief Plan money, and then any other money that might be flowing outside of that, Jobs Act money. There's been discussion of water, sewer, and infrastructure money, but there's been no guidance or no significant federal distribution in terms of when that money's coming, how it's coming. The most recent target date they've told us is the 18th, that they'll have some additional updates as to how that might be progressing and exactly what we're going to get, what we can use the money for. At least then have a conversation, hopefully, as we go forward, as we get guidance from the Fed. So there's, I guess things are still in the pipeline. We still have not received 100% confirmation yet on what might be out there and what might be eligible. So we'll certainly keep everybody in the loop, but that's the most recent information that we have on all of those new potentially new federal monies coming.
Great. Thank you, Scott. Let's see, if we move on to the first agenda item is the audit update.
So we've spent a lot of time again with the auditors to finalize a couple of items. I think as we had discussed with our water fund and our sewer fund, there was still large balances of items that were in due to and due from accounts. A lot of that related back to capital projects and how monies were allocated through the capital process. Got a little bit more guidance from the auditors in relationship to how rural development funds come through in our program. So the water money comes through more quickly than the sewer money, which seems to all come in one lump sum. So even though you're working on the project over multiple, and in some cases, multiple fiscal years, you can't get the reimbursement until it's all submitted for. So part of that large due to number in the sewer fund relates specifically to capital work. So the submissions are in, we're waiting to get the follow-up in terms of when that money will come back, and then the debt schedules that go with that, and then we'll be able to then tie in our long-term capital and debt schedules, which we had talked about, as well as then tying in the bond bank work, which I have here for you, and we'll talk about that as a separate discussion as we go forward. So nothing substantial in terms of there's no substantial changes in financial position or no concerns. It's more of a process issue at this point. And the auditors did say that they'll have the full financials available for us on Friday, so I can post them for everyone, and they'll be also then available on the website, and we'll make sure we have copies available if folks want a full set when they come on the informational meeting on Monday, if they want to look through them as well.
We still had a question on the due to, due from lines.
Well,
Matt.
it ties into the getting the proceeds from the bonds that have already been issued, and it appears that there's over 800,000 in the
Number was
in the
like
sewer,
964, something along those lines, I think. Yeah.
and our due to is a little over $1 million on this financial, so that would substantially reduce that
Yes.
due to. So we could see light at the end of the tunnel at that point, but and like I said, as far as I know, the work is completed. I don't think there's anything left. We've got new projects that we funded without bond money anticipated this year.
Right.
You know, so
We're waiting for everything to come back.
so I don't know what if we filed everything, we should be getting it.
Yeah, so we should have, I think, all that tied up, and then I think it'll timing wise, it'll flow into the next piece, which we had discussed, which is additional analysis that the board requested prior to any discussion of additional increases in rates for water or sewer for the fall. So I think we're still good on timing. I know even if we go to the one meeting a month during the summer, we'll still have time to vet the issue as fully as the board would like, and make sure that you have plenty of time to make a decision before September.
Okay, so anyone have any other questions concerning this matter? Item number 1? No. All right, then we move on to item number 2, which is the Vermont Bond Bank process, and you have before you some material that Scott gave us.
So what will happen with this is the bond bank will do as sort of an ancillary service. They will go through, and once we have our 2020 complete audit, which we'll have at the end of the week, we'll submit that to them as well. They're going to go through a series of benchmark analysis, and there's a whole host of them here. I don't want to go through every single one of these. I think these are the kind of things that'll put people to sleep at home. But it is important for us to get a sense of how we are positioned in relationship to other Vermont communities, how we're positioned to how other rating agencies look at our debt ratios and our capital, and make sure that we're in a good operating position. And then I think it also will help us to be more disciplined as we talk about future projects, to make sure that we're meeting the required ratios, and we have enough additional capital that the board feels comfortable going forward, that we don't put ourselves into a cash crunch and end up with large or continuing rate increases, which are obviously not great for the public and creates a lot of ill will. So we're hoping to avoid that, I think, by being a little bit more, doing a little more analysis up front, being able to make sure that we're fiscally sound and responsible. And then when we do come forward with projects, I think we can feel that we've done all our due diligence, and hopefully the board will feel that we're in a good place going forward. So this is, again, one of the basically benchmark assessments that they do. It'll be a fairly comprehensive review. I think it'll be beneficial. I think at the end of that, it will give us, I think, some good guidelines, and also I think some additional management challenges to make sure that we're meeting all of our required benchmarks. But I think it's a good discipline for us to go forward with this. And I will make sure that that work is done long before we start talking again about any additional rates for September.
So are we going to wind up meeting with a representative at someone, whether it's here in a meeting or at a separate meeting?
Well, I think they want to get the work done first and
From the
then have a
2020
presentation. So
before.
it made more sense to do that.
Just want to be sure to.
Right. So we're still working towards that.
Okay.
And I think it would be beneficial to have that with the information.
All right. Anyone have anything else?
Yeah, moving forward, is there a recommended cycle that we would repeat this analysis?
I think the idea here is to do this on a continuing basis, because I think with your ratios, you can pretty much almost, once it's set up, I think it's almost just fill in the blanks and see how you're doing in terms of,
So that would
an
be
annual
done
performance.
in-house. That would be done in-house then moving forward?
My
or
expectation is
through-
we would start that and be able to continue doing that in-house once we have all the analysis and it's set up.
Okay.
Anyone else?
So is this the first time this assessment's been done? I mean,
Well, that we've seen.
that we've seen?
First time we've seen it. Yeah.
They do this as a service for communities in Vermont. I don't know, I've looked through the files here, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't found one previously. I know there's been financial analysis done on some of the larger work, like the headworks and some of the other RBC work that you guys have undertaken, but not specific to that I could find to the bond bank. So
And that includes the town or the village, right?
I couldn't find it for anybody.
Yeah, because I was
So-
thinking about, the destruction of the bridge and all of the bond money that was required to be raised for that, and the library bond, all those things. You'd think that it would have timed up at some point, just do a check, but you haven't.
I
found
think
one.
it's a good discipline for us to go through. I
Mhm.
think it gives us a sense of, it's an independent third party who's not involved, obviously, in any of our local conversations, and they can
Right.
give us a pretty good dispassionate view of how we're doing. So it's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Anyone else? Or are we all set?
Well, I
Okay.
guess the question I have is that given the structure, we have a general account, a Bellows Falls Village general account, which has no borrowings.
Mhm.
Then we have two funds, enterprise funds. One is water and one is sewer. Both have significant debt. So I guess the question that I have is, to what extent does the debt all counts against Bellows Falls, but to what extent does the general fund play in their development of ratios? Or are each of these funds on a standalone basis?
I think for this work specifically, since we're only looking at stuff that the bond bank specifically is focused on, that's going to be our borrowing. It'll mostly focus on water and sewer, since we don't have debt in the general fund. If we had substantial general fund obligation, then they would look at that too. And I think the other thing that I want them to take a look at is we also have other jurisdictions that do pay a portion of our capital expenses, right? We have water service agreements with other communities that do pay a portion of our incurred debt. And so I think that needs to be somewhat more accurately reflected in this work. And so then the board can also see how much is obligations for the Bellows Falls ratepayer and taxpayer, and how much is maybe for other outside ratepayers and taxpayers. I think that's an important thing for the board to know.
Well, it's particularly critical in the wastewater fund, which is a joint venture between Bellows Falls and Walpole. So that's a more critical one than on the water side, where we have the issue with Westminster.
Right. So I think that I'm cautiously optimistic that I think when we're done with this financial review, we'll be at least in a better position to have a more educated and hopefully a more nuanced approach as we go forward with how we're going to fund our large capital projects, give you a better sense of how we're looking 5 to 7 years out, and then give you a better sense of how we can meet that obligation with debt rate, the rate for our sanitary sewer and water, and then also any other issues that the board, I think, needs to or wants to take a look at. So.
Okay. Hearing nothing further, we move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Midas Pond Pump House update. You have something?
Just briefly, I did speak with Gary. He did speak to the folks. They did have HPC, I think, had a meeting and did discuss the pond and the pump house, and I think they had reached out to you, Deb, so maybe if you want to give the update.
Right. I got a call yesterday from Walter Wallace. I believe he's the CLG chair. Yeah, and he discussed with me what we had done at the last meeting, talking about what had happened. And I said a lot of the footwork has already been done, 15, 16, 17, 18, on assessments on the building, but moving forward on actually taking care of it have not occurred. And his discussion with me included wanting to turn this into an awareness for the entire community, because it's a beautiful place up there, not just the pump house, but the entire area, and what it shows, and the precious commodity that we have that people should really appreciate, which is our water resource. And maybe something like the pump house would bring more people up there to view it. He thought it was a great idea, my idea for a plaque that would give sort of a history of the pump house. But he said this could all be done by volunteers. However, there are some small concerns, such as analysis of the paint on the building to see if there's a concern about lead and that sort of thing. I don't know the last time it was painted, and that sort. Of course, no funds available because it's not historic any longer, because it was moved off its platform, its original location. However, one of the things they're thinking to do is to utilizing the library's resource to do basically a talk on the history of the pond and the pump house and that sort of thing, to bring more public awareness and make it a public, not a spectacle per se, but a public event, and get public interest in possibly doing volunteer work to get these things done. I mean, you could put 12 people on painting the building and get it all done in a day, or even fewer people, and those sort of things, but they each need to get done, and they need to be done properly. So they are working on it. It's back in their court, and it is on their agenda, which they had a meeting on Monday night, but I wasn't able to attend because I had another meeting I was involved in. So that's what I have right now. And it is moving forward, and I think I asked if they keep us in the loop and let us know, and I'll look at their minutes, give us any feedback, so we can keep the village informed. I mean, it's a village piece of property, but CLG and the Historic Group committees are both town agencies, right? So So we will keep informed and see what happens next. I think that's all I had, unless there's other questions.
Good.
That sort of moves it in the direction you were looking for anyway,
Mhm,
Jigs, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And what does CLG stand
Um,
for?
Conservation,
Certified local government.
certified local government, yeah, that's correct. You're right, thank you.
Say anything about focusing on the roof, as we mentioned last time, at least making it
Yes,
watertight?
all of the things that were in the analysis they had, that was done, itemized in 2018. And of course, that's gonna cost more, that would additionally, technically cost more than they brought it to, unless volunteer work would take care of majority of it, materials would be the cost. Scott, do you have something?
Brian did take some pictures, and the inside of the building is dry. So the roof
Good.
itself is in decent shape. I wouldn't say it's great, but it's at least keeping the inside envelope from getting moisture. So,
That's
yeah.
terrific, at least the inside is,
Yeah, so
protected if the
did,
outside
yeah,
isn't.
and he's been keeping an eye on it periodically, but nothing, nothing on a weekly basis.
okay. So that might be worth, again, they're gonna do something with, like Zoom or video talk on the history of the pond, which apparently has been there since, did he say the Civil War? So it's quite a long time, its usage. I never knew the history of the pond, when we discovered it, when we started using it, when it became our public resource, that kind of thing. And everything we can do to bring attention to it and keep and be aware of it and protect it is really important. So not just the building, but the entire area. A lot of people are losing. I know there's some community members who are very concerned about people like Nestle coming in and buying our water supply. It is precious and we need to take care of it. So I think the greater scope is important for the community. If we move on to the short subject of the discussion of automated vehicle permit, we are intending to present this to both boards at the joint board meeting in June, right? I did ask, but I forgot to send out that email because I know that Stefan was not here at our last meeting to ask for questions and concerns so we could get them addressed before the June meeting. I know that I sent the email out reminder today. Jigs did respond, but please continue to look at that. You didn't get the email? I sent it to you. I'll just double check it. Maybe I sent to the wrong email. I need to delete the other ones. So which one are you using? Is it the rock? Okay, so, and I don't go to the Facebook page to look for your email addresses. I know I probably got 2 or 3 in there and they probably in the wrong place, but nothing bounced back, but I will look and I will resend, make a note to do that tonight so I don't forget. So that's my intention. Do you have anything else on that?
No, the only thing is, I think that at some point, I think we're also asking the town to take a look as well. And then I think Deb's point is at the joint meeting, I think if there's, a larger discussion about how do we want to proceed, do we want to proceed, where does this sort of go? I think what the Vermont transportation folks are looking for is just a sense of where we're headed, so.
And the pages that we got in our packet make it clear areas that we think testing should not occur and areas where we think it would be approved with conditions. And those are all concerns about the sensitivity of the neighborhoods that we're looking at in our village, and the town in the larger scope will be looking at Sacklands River and all the other unincorporated villages. So I think that's all we had on this one. Again, I will resend tonight the email because of the bit, and I would assume that Susan was doing the same, as our discussion was about that. I think the stuff posted on the website for people to review, and we still should get it to Fact TV. I'm not sure if they're putting anything out there now. I have to take a look. Okay. Next item is our financials.
I will do an updated financial report on Friday when we do the updated audit. So I'll
Okay.
send them both together. So, and then we can have them available for conversation for Monday. So.
There will be an update.
There will be an update.
Scott, it looks like there are things that just haven't been updated in those financials,
No,
particularly the schedule of debt service
Right.
for the water and sewer funds. Nothing shows having been paid.
Which relates back to the finishing of the audit. The last 2 weeks, we've been going through debt schedules and USDA loans and other outstanding loans and making sure that they have the right schedules. So those will all be posted, and then we'll have them in both spots. So the audit will be finalized as well as the update. It should show in our regular financials as well.
Okay, because a lot of the comments are kind of just the same,
As
same
last
old,
time.
same old,
Yes.
you know?
Right, so it did make sense to do another updated grouping, which wouldn't have the information you're looking for. So
Yeah.
Friday, we should be in a
Okay.
better spot.
The other thing is that on the water, the revenue side for Westminster is now zero. It still shows zero. And I thought we had gotten some money there for one of the previous financials.
We had received some of the, I think we had received half of their payment. We're billing another District 5 payment, I believe, at the end of this month. So
Right,
that'll
I see
be, I
that.
think, another portion.
Yeah, yeah,
Did you see the water?
I do, and it's zero.
Yes.
It's zero.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
And
I'll
by
make
now,
sure,
the
I'll
year's
make sure
almost
those
over.
that those are posted.
Okay.
And I noticed on page 6 of 14.
Yeah.
The insurance for police equipment, the 1,100% for vehicle insurance, an increase. Was
They-
that just a misposting?
That's the vehicle purchase,
Okay,
which
but is that a
should
po-
not be there.
So
It should-
it's a
Wrong
misposting.
line.
It's
gotta
in
be
the
moved.
wrong
It's in
place.
the wrong place.
This is why I asked.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I had one, and it's not in here, it's not showing, but I want to bring it to the trustees' attention. Last meeting, we were advised that, that the health department was having an asbestos test, or a full asbestos test done on 66 Atkinson Street. When I signed the warrants last week, there was a $4,200 charge in there for that test. We were not advised that we'd be paying for it, and since we're not the health department, I wonder why why it's billed to the village.
We're going to do a comprehensive update for you on the 66 Atkinson process, because there's a variety of costs that are into, we're about 18,000 into that, between fencing, a couple of environmental, that 4,200 included removal of asbestos, as well as the testing. And then there's some additional conversation that we need to have about what we want to do going forward in terms of
Right.
how that property might pass into
Other ownership.
other ownership. So-
My concern about it is that the health department is a town entity, and the charge for the testing was done to the village. We were not asked about spending that money, or that it would be ours. I intended that, my expectation was that it was a town billing, because was the town that wanted to do that. We were told it was being done. We weren't told, are we good with getting it done? That's all I'm saying. I understand the reasoning,
Right.
but that was based upon the health officer's decision to do that, because he wanted to make sure that it wouldn't be an entirely friable building if it all came down.
That was part of it. It was also, I think, relating to the legal proceedings and some of the deadlines about activity that was required of the owner. So that was part of that process as well. That's why I think it's a more complicated conversation. I think some of it we have to have outside
Okay.
of the public session. And I do more than, I think when I can present the full picture, I think it'll be easier for us to work through some of those concerns. And I will make sure that we can do that well before we get to the June 30th meeting.
Okay, so an article, basically an item on an agenda for 66 Atkinson Street.
Yes, and then I think we'll have to do some of that discussion outside of the public session.
Right. And so otherwise, we'll see a corrected financials on Friday. Everyone's aware of that, okay? Anyone else have anything else on this right now? Moving on to item number 6, the annual meeting Zoom discussion. Because of concerns over how we get it done, and trying to learn from mistakes on a previous one in March.
Right, so we are doing a dry run Friday morning with Fact TV, our moderator, Chuck Wise, who will be running our end of the Zoom, and myself. So we'll be in the Opera House and making sure that everything is coordinated, everything is running as we expect, and that we don't have any audio or any other concerns like we did have at the previous annual meeting.
Right.
And then we're going to do a dry run on some of the Zoom aspects to make sure that people that do log in can participate and how that's going to work so that we'll be able to recognize who would like to participate and make sure that we have a process for that so that it flows in a more orderly fashion. So we're going to test all that Friday morning at 10. You're more than welcome to come if you'd like to be,
10 a.m. If I
be
wanted to
here or
participate and
not.
watch what's going on.
Right, or you could zoom in if
Yeah.
you'd like, and maybe we'll play with, you could also
Yeah.
help that, either way would be helpful. 'cause-
For historical purposes, the miking system is always a problem, like every year, twice a year, 3 times a year on annual elections, on national elections. The miking is always a difficulty. Getting people to use the microphones also a
That's a
difficulty.
challenge, but I think the audio levels were okay. I think we had some issues with some of the feedback because of where some of the equipment was, so that created some. So we're going to make sure that we don't have any of
Okay,
those.
so 10 a.m. on Friday.
Yes, 10 a.m. on Friday.
Anything further from any other trustee?
What are we saying to people in terms of physically coming to the meeting? I mean, if
Yeah, what
if
are we saying?
things
It
are
doesn't say so on the,
loosening up.
As of now, they are still within this May 1 guideline. So they have this ratio that you
Okay.
can have up to 150 people in our space roughly. And if
like to see that.
you have to assume people are not vaccinated, so that's why you still have a limit. And then June 1, it changes again to 300 people. So we're going to maintain the 150 person. I don't think we'll reach the limit. quite
I would like to
frankly.
see that.
So that's,
So-
I think it's, clearly under the current guidelines, there's plenty of room for safe seating at the meeting.
Yes, the only thing we're going to ask people again, because there are still guidance about wearing masks.
Oh, yes.
And
Yeah.
even though people are vaccinated
Yeah.
and we've had some conversations, most folks are pretty good. But we are going to ask people to wear their masks when they come to
Okay.
participate.
Are they coming in the front door or the side doors? I mean, they
We're
should
going to
know
have them
that.
come in the front because we don't need to
Okay,
do,
Kathleen just said the front. She's
yeah,
running
we
the
don't
meeting.
need to do contact tracing.
Okay.
So we're going to eliminate that whole,
Yeah,
that
so
whole-
I'm saying it because I want the camera to know.
yes,
But this is one of our last opportunities to try and get
right.
people to aware of it, as well as the fact that there's no Zoom link on this annual report. How are people going to know if they don't want to attend physically? If they want to Zoom in, where are they going to get that?
It is on the website. The Zoom link is on the website. It's also on the warning that was published and is
Okay,
around at
good.
various locations. And, we'll make sure that we're going to test again on Friday to make sure that everything is up and operational.
And I can't say that I think that Zoom will definitely go away after COVID is gone. I mean, it's increased the amount of participation. There's just no doubt about it. More citizens attend when they can attend from the safety of their home,
Yes.
or just the convenience of their home, and not having to drive down and find a parking space, limited, and get into the building, sometimes to sit around for a couple of hours. And especially when you look at the annual town meeting where you've got school first or school second, it makes it a very longer meeting. So, but I don't think Zoom will disappear. I think we'll still use it in some way, shape, or form for meetings. Anything further from anyone? All good with that? Okay. Good. Yes, go ahead.
The other question was, is anybody going to talk about the budget at the meeting?
Well, it's going to be one of the items we'll be talking about it because we're still going to read, even though it's Australian, still be
Right.
reading each of
Right.
the articles on the warning, and we will stop for discussion on each of those articles.
Because I think because of the increase,
Mhm.
I think we ought to,
Ought to have
somebody
some-
ought to be prepared
Yeah.
to
Sure.
address the changes in the budget. And
I mean, depending on your pleasure, we can certainly do it as an introduction and then let the board have have an opportunity to interact with folks. It's
Mhm.
really, it's up to you how you'd like it to go.
well, I think if you wanted to do that and explain it, then that would be fine with me.
Hit the high points on
Yeah.
where our
Right.
increases are.
Yeah.
I think we could definitely do that. Okay. And then open it up to whoever wants to.
Right, because I'm assuming
Right.
that would be the biggest area that people are going to want to talk about when coming to the meeting, for sure, is the budget. If we don't have anything inflammatory on any of the articles, and there's no additional monies being requesting to be allocated from the taxpayers on any of the articles, just the budget.
Yes.
So that will be the area of concentration, I'm sure.
Okay.
So hitting the high points will be really important for them to and then they'll get into the weeds about some of the things that they're concerned with. Okay, number 7 is the police vehicle update.
Great, so I got the chief here, and maybe if you guys want to grab that other microphone.
Hope it works. Well, that one does, okay. I was thinking about that one. Oh, that's a constant battle.
So we've spent a lot of time talking about our fleet and options and issues relating to our replacement schedule. And I think one of the concerns that was raised, and I thought that maybe Dave could help us work through, is just the status of that current 2017 Cruiser, and just, I guess, whatever other issues the board might want to raise about that vehicle in terms of how you want to proceed with it. Basically, we've sort of taken the position at this point, it's pretty much at a point where it needs to go to surplus. It's difficult to return it back to frontline service, but I thought, since we're here, let's have an opportunity, and maybe Dave, you can sort of jump in and take it from there.
We have purchased the new vehicle. We were told it could be 12 weeks of getting it. The dealership was able to find one that had been ordered but had not been taken by an agency, had 192 miles on it, brand new, had never been issued to the agency or sold to the agency, although it had been kept for a few months prior to that. We have the vehicle now, and we are now waiting to get the vehicle outfitted with lights, with radios, with the cage in the vehicle. That's taken longer than it normally would have. The company that has done our vehicles in the past gave us a date of the end of July at the first that they could do it. We searched for some other agencies or other companies that did it. We settled on KMA out of Keene that have started outfitting vehicles, fire vehicles, police vehicles. And they had hoped that it would be about 8 weeks to secure the materials they need to outfit the cruiser. We're certainly going to take things out of the 2017. The radios are going to be put in the new vehicle. The lights on top are going to be used. The cage can't be used because although simply looking at the vehicle, it looks about the same. Interior, it is a restyle vehicle, and everybody has said that the cage won't work. The center console where the radios mount won't work that we have. So we have to purchase those items, and they are. Everybody has said that they are backlogged, and it's difficult to get those pieces for the vehicle. But they have ordered them, and they are going to get them in. Once they have the equipment that we need to put into it, we are going to strip out what is in the 2017 and hopefully at that point then put the vehicle up for auction. Jimmy Smith came. He has worked on the vehicle. I know that there was some concerns whether it should be fixed and kept, or if it should be sold for surplus. And I was hoping that Jimmy would be able to give us a little bit of what he thinks of the vehicle and what he knows about the vehicle.
I'm a little unprepared, but I'll try to answer anything I can. As some of you probably know, I've got about...
Jim, please make sure to use the microphone, otherwise Back
I'm
TV
sorry.
won't pick it up. That's okay.
So, as some of you know, I've got a large fleet of state vehicles that are the same as the one you're replacing that we take care of. And I could... Everybody's not a car person. The one that you're replacing, and it's not the mileage so much as you guys are getting, it's the hours. And other municipalities have run into the same problem. This particular car, we were looking at it today, had 17,959 hours on it. Now, I can tell you, comparing that to a state vehicle similar age, you're probably going to have 9,000 or so hours more on your municipal one. Why? Because the state vehicles have one driver and they're not working 24 hours a day. So you folks are kind of in a predicament where if you're fully staffed, your cars are running most of the time. And in cold weather, you don't have warm storage, so the spare has to be run once in a while also. So some of what you're dealing with for wear and tear on this car isn't so much age as it is the hours. And there's really not a whole lot you can do. Springfield ran into it. Springfield had 3 cruisers with engine failures over the last few years. I don't think they've run into it recently, but within the last 5, because the dealership we were talking about it. And it's the same problem. They were running, you're fully staffed, they got to run all the time. But anyways, so this particular one here, the whole heater assembly in it, which is a very labor intensive and expensive job, was about $4,000 down at the dealership. But on top of that, it was also going to need some exhaust work that parts weren't even available for, to the tune of about $1,100, which I was able to weld up for now to get it by and through inspection. And it also has got some oil leaks that were going to be around another $700. And drawn off what I see on the state vehicles with high mileage, this mileage, there's a formula Ford uses. The hours right now equates to about 300,000 miles if you were to convert miles in hours. So, and there's really, I don't see what you do. You got to run the car. So it's the hours killing them. And this one also does appear to be using oil in between oil changes too. And I will stick up for these guys when it's due. And over the last couple of years, maintenance has been really good. Oil changes, they're right on it. Pretty happy with what I see going on with my tax dollars as far as maintenance goes. And, I personally feel it's the time to get rid of it because I'm afraid that, and I'm a taxpayer and, I don't mind. It's what I do for a living, but I think it's time to, step away from this particular car. So I think if you start adding up what it needs now, the bigger problem is what it hasn't had happen, which we do see on a lot of the higher mileage state vehicles, and the previous K9 car that you got rid of, similar mileage, had some pretty expensive problems towards the end of its life, and this one hasn't had them yet. My bigger concern would be it's going to, and there are no police cruisers available right now. The state of Vermont's still waiting on some they ordered 2 or 3 months ago. So if this car were to catastrophically fail, I think you could be waiting quite a while to replace it with another new one. And the trouble is, as we've seen, the used ones from other municipalities have high hours on them, and you could be in the same boat. And I don't even think, keeping it around as a spare with this kind of hours is a really great idea. But so in my opinion, I think it was probably a good time to think about getting rid of it. And we spoke when he bought that new one, and the price was pretty good compared to what I've talked to the state guy, and their state bid is only a couple $1,000s off from this one. This one is the newer version of the Explorer. I can tell you from the 2 brand new ones that the state has, one of them's already got 40,000+ miles on it. It's the same model year. Have been a lot better maintenance wise. They're not seeing the same problems that the 2013 to 19 version Explorer's having. But they are wider, a little smaller motor, real durable engine. So the cage, that sort of stuff isn't going to fit. It's a rear wheel drive Explorer, then it kicks the front wheel drive. All these are basically a car that you have now. It's, front wheel drive, and then kicks the rear wheel drive when it needs its all wheel drive part of it. So I'm afraid that keeping it too long or trying to keep it longer is where you're going to run into it. Either has a major failure or it's going to all of a sudden be thousands of dollars just to keep it going till you could get a replacement. And I benefit from fixing them, but I don't think this is a good idea to keep this one a lot longer. And I
think we agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Other questions from the board? You might have.
we agree.
And I did consult with my friend down at the Ford garage today, and he said the same thing I did. This is what I do for a living, but I think this was probably a good idea. That one came along. I think you're really lucky that it came along. It's white, and I know it's not. It could be the 21 model year, but you know, in the end, I guess by the time you get rid of them, they don't have a whole lot of value, anyways. And it is the same car. They haven't changed it for the next version. It's you know, and like I said, it looks like these are going to be a little bit less maintenance in the long run by look so far, at least from what I'm seeing.
Questions from the board?
Now, in the interim, Chief, will you run the new car? Or will you just wait until?
We have not run it. We
Okay.
brought it from the dealership, we parked it, we left it there. We're not running it until we get the radios and outfitted for a police vehicle.
Yeah, okay.
So you said 8 weeks from what? 8 weeks from when you got it?
That was what their estimate was for getting the cage and the console for the middle. They couldn't give me an exact date because everything, they said, the supply lines are not great, but that was what their estimate was, 8 weeks from
So
when we
like,
got
we're
it,
looking at like maybe the middle of June.
hopefully.
We've been trying to keep that one safe, you know, and not put any more than we have to, and that's been the key. And right now it is, but I do wonder sometimes, you know, is something bad gonna happen? I'm just on edge about it. I've seen a lot of these with that hours of mileage high like that. And you got to worry a little bit that all of a sudden we're down to 2.
Okay. So that we are still utilizing the 2017 though right now,
Yes, we are.
and the new one will wait until it's outfitted.
It'll wait until we can outfit it and have it for a police vehicle.
Okay.
And then when it is in service, it'll have our Axon system in it. It'll be fully outfitted.
Correct.
So it'll have all of our, in fact, they were in, I think, today.
Axon was in today, installed the camera system in 2 of the vehicles. They are coming back tomorrow to get everything synced together, but they should be up and going by tomorrow.
Okay.
So we're slowly making progress.
All right. I wanted to make sure that anyone who had any questions about the purchase would have something to ask those at the meeting. So if there's nothing further, I
Got a
hear nothing. You do. Okay, go ahead.
I just kind of referring back to the maintenance part of it, for the chief and Jim. Is there anything that we should be considering or doing or thinking about to improve our maintenance program for the vehicles moving forward, or anything we're not doing now that we should be doing down the, you know, adding to the list to make sure things are getting done?
Well, what I can tell you is it's been, and I don't really want to throw anybody under the bus, but the last chief started to do things a little different, didn't really complete it. Right now, David's been really good, and we're doing regular service every 3,000 miles with synthetic oil. And the reason we started doing that was Ron. Ron came up with that because Springfield PD was having so much trouble with engines, you know. So we changed to 1,000-mile intervals, and that was a big thing. It kind of works out. I'm actually doing very similar service on these that I do to the state vehicles. State of Vermont has a great maintenance program. They do their best, and they actually do their oil at 4,000 miles without synthetic. So honestly, no, I think that the only problem you have is the hours, and I don't know what you do about it. You know, during the winter especially, you got to keep them. You got to keep them going. And I brought it up, and I'm going to get hung at some point, but I don't know if the off-duty car could be parked in the firehouse. You know, they got a little bit of room in there. Maybe it could stay in there and not have to go out and clean it off and run it and shut it off, because it doesn't get really driven. It just has to be kept operating. But as far as what I see, and I'm not afraid to say something to him or Wade or Stefan, I see enough of them that I really believe right now you guys, they're doing a good job. I've been working for the village on cruisers for probably better than 15 years. And I've seen in the beginning when I started, it was terrible. They had engines failing. It's come a long way. Some of what you're dealing with is honestly just the car and the hour thing. The hour thing's a real headache, and I really don't know what you can do. If you had one more newer one, could you rotate them around?
Right.
You might be able to. Then you'd be maintaining 4. I don't know. You know, what's the answer? But maybe if you could put the spare inside during the winter on and off, you know, maybe that would help. But what he's doing, honestly, and I'm not trying to inflate his ego at all, they're doing pretty good. But when you're fully staffed, they're going to be running more, so I don't know. But we'll see how the new car does. But right now, the state ones look like maybe Ford has headed the right direction a little bit, because I've seen an awful lot of money put in these Explorers over the last few years since they started building them, and I think the newer one might be a bit better. So, but I mean, I don't think there's a need for you guys to undercoat them really. You know, shouldn't have to keep them that long. These aren't really rusted. It's the hours and the maintenance interval seems to be working. It seems to be we're ahead of any issues with engine failure. There's some other failures that are just going to happen, but it looks like overall, you know, they're okay, in my opinion. I see enough of these things, and these aren't too bad. You just happen to have one with an awful lot of hours on it.
Right. So Stefan, you had something?
Just a couple of thoughts. I refer to it as Sally Port, maybe I would call it a carport or something. You got that back section of the building where the kitchen comes out on the PD side. You know, I know it's a capital project, we'll be spending money, but if we had a discussion with a mason or somebody to what it would take to build a garage there, park 2 or 3 vehicles in. You know, I drive by there going to work every day, especially in the winter, and they're out there idling. Cost of gas is going up. That's adding on hours just to sit there idle. If you had them where they could be enclosed, you could cut a lot of that down. Also, the idea of the police side, the fire side of the building, maybe being able to rearrange, I don't know, maybe where the rescue truck is, talk to Sean or something, and see if we can get a vehicle in there or 2 vehicles in there during the winter time, and to stop them from being outside running, plus getting the, you know, the weather on them and all that. I think we've got to look at that and maybe take an initiative to do something different to cut them hours down.
I'm a big fan of Sally Ports. I know the chief is too.
Yeah.
And that's one of the conversations we've had. You know, we are putting some money into some painting and some other
Yeah.
minor capital in the building. We talked about some parking improvements, but I think our longer term conversation is about the lobby area, trying to reduce some of that, and maybe creating some additional space where we could have a Sally Port or some other space where we could do that. And I
Right.
think that's something that we'll pursue
Yeah.
much more aggressively and bring back
I
information
think
to
it
you.
can be done, and having talked with the mason, because there's a lot of work going up to where I'm at. They're always tearing things down, building things up. But the other benefits to that are, if you need a somewhat secure place for an impounded vehicle, or to secure a vehicle for a certain period of time, whether it be for a search warrant or whatever else, you'd have that tool there
Right.
to use.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a big fan of it just from an officer safety standpoint, but you're
Also,
right.
yeah.
We've got some real
Definitely.
long-term items that we want to start to look into, and I think that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, there's fabricated structures you can purchase that would adhere to the building, or if you did brick and mortar.
Yep.
I just want to add one thing that, away from the maintenance side of this, because I've talked to some other people. Unfortunately, if for some reason you're not staffed 24/7 also, when you've got your police cruisers parked out front of the building, the bad guys know when they're working. If you had,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? If
Yeah.
you had inside storage, whether it's because of the weather or just because,
Be less visible.
it's
Yeah.
a little less for folks to figure out where they are.
That's true. I agree with that. Okay, anything further on this subject? We good? Okay. Yes, you're free to go. That's his line.
Thank you. Appreciate you
Thank you,
coming
Jake.
in. Thank you so much.
That's right. Let's see. Item number 8 is the summer schedule. So typically, the boards, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to rush you. Okay, so number 8 is the summer schedule. Typically, the boards, both town and village, go to one meeting on June, July, and August. Is that the board's pleasure to do the same?
Yeah.
If so, someone should make a motion.
I'll make the motion that effective June, we go to the summer schedule. And I guess leave it up to you whether it's the second or the fourth.
I think the second's usually better. Give us the rest of the month after that. That's what we've been done in the
And
past.
certainly if we can have financials.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
that's
think
all
the
we need,
second
yeah.
is better.
Exactly. So the second Tuesday
Second
of the
Tuesday
month. So that's for June, July, and August.
for
Yes.
June, July, and August.
Okay. I need a second.
that.
Thank you. Further discussion on the summer schedule. Anybody? All right. If there is none, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, that is what we will do. So we'll have one more meeting on the fourth Tuesday this month, and then we go to one meeting a month.
So our next meeting is the 25th.
Our next meeting is the 25th.
Okay.
Well, our next meeting is the informational meeting on Monday.
Yeah, that's our actual next meeting. Right?
Yes,
Next Monday is our
regularly scheduled
is our
meeting.
annual meeting, right?
It's our annual meeting,
Our annual meeting, and then the next meeting after that, Dave, the 11th would be the 25th. That's correct.
because it says here, review items
It
for the
does.
next
It
meeting.
says June 8th, but that's not correct.
It's wrong. Yeah.
Because we'll have our organizational meeting on the 25th.
Right, exactly. Yep. So yes, that was the wrong date on the agenda. So our next regular meeting will be June 25. I'm sorry, May 25. Good God. I keep doing it. May 25th. Did I say that? All right, May 25th. All right, so we will have to ratify this at the May 25th meeting, since it wasn't on the agenda originally, but that just, going through, and we're just double checks we're good on it. No money's being spent and no additional action being taken. Review agenda items for the next meeting, May 25th, 2021. Again, will we have additional financial or anything going over that on that meeting?
No, we will have the 66 Atkinson update, so we'll have
Yeah,
that.
okay.
For sure.
Okay. Let's see, the summer
I
schedule
don't know if we'll have the
ratification will
bond
be
bank
on
by then. My guess is it'd probably be June or maybe even July.
before then.
Yeah.
I know we keep bringing up the dryer issue, but that's June.
That will be a
June.
June
Yeah,
presentation.
June presentation. If there is any additional information coming forth from CLG or the historical commission, then they can bring that on that meeting too. If there is anything, but it's only 2 weeks, so maybe not. Anything else anyone can think of for the second meeting of the month? Not at this point. Let me know if you find anything. Review agenda items for the joint board meeting. We have some things listed. The AV is definitely going to be on there.
Mhm.
There'll be information probably about 66 Atkinson Street, maybe, because
Yes.
it's a joint town village stuff.
There will be, yes.
For sure. Not sure what else at this point.
Hopefully by then we'll have a full understanding of all the additional federal money and how it's coming and where it's coming and what we can do or use it for.
Mhm.
So again, it's, a mystery at the moment, but we're
Right.
getting closer.
I don't know if the board is interested in hearing, or if you've seen what's going on with the Depot Street Bridge. No decision's been made yet. We might hear something at the joint board meeting, who knows, in the town. Apparently, Wade, you had something?
I think I mentioned it last time, but the Eric's Cove agreement.
Oh, that's right, about running officers out there to
Yeah,
close the gates and stuff. We need, how about
It's
an
a
update on
verbal,
that?
there is no written agreement.
Ah.
That was
So-
what we were.
Yeah, so what's
The
happened?
question would be, how do you want us to proceed going
Right, so we're not doing
forward?
it right now.
We're not
it
doing
is spring.
anything right now.
Was it just for the summer months? Was that how it
Right.
was?
Last year, at the end of the fall,
Yeah.
or at the end of the season, we decided we'd put it on the back burner until this spring,
Right,
revisit it.
My guess is we should put it on for discussion,
okay.
and I have not heard anybody,
Wait, joint board or next regular trustee meeting? Which one are you talking about?
I think you want to probably talk at your trustee meeting before
Yeah, so the
joint-
25th,
Yeah,
Eric's Cove.
okay.
Sounds good, thank you. Wait. Okay, let's see, review, order, and approve orders, bills, and warrants.
Motion to approve orders, bills, and warrants is circulated here tonight.
All right, need a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving around for other business. Scott? Wade?
Nope.
Jigs?
A couple of things. The Great River Hydro, the dam and the utility. A few years ago, when they purchased the properties, we had a meeting, and there had been litigation outstanding against with the previous owner, and we got that all settled. And I'm assuming going forward that it's just going to work as a normal, the listers will assess the value and hopefully it'll be acceptable and.
Oh, that's right, yep.
There was a 5-year agreement that was signed that is, I believe, up in 2022.
Okay,
So
so
next
there is an
year.
agreement. I
There
knew
was
there
a-
was
there was an
agreement, I wasn't
agreement,
sure.
And then there'll have to be some work done prior to any discussion of how that goes forward. So there is a
Okay,
specialty
so
sort of.
I didn't know how long it was for, so 5 years.
So
Yeah, I
they've-
didn't realize it was five. I was on the committee, but I didn't realize it was
ended up, I
5
think the
years.
original term was 5 years.
Okay,
So there's a process. They're going to bring in a specialty appraiser, obviously, who does, this type of utility.
Mhm.
And so that conversation has started, and at some point, I think maybe even at the joint meeting, we should talk about how that might progress.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
So that might be a good item to sort of at least start having a conversation about.
okay,
Yeah, to do it in advance of it's expiring,
right,
so,
yeah. The other thing was, I was reading the annual report, and kudos to Deborah for the citing Mrs. Hardy. Geraldine Hardy is the honorary person here. It's
For this
quite
year?
nice.
That was a nice write-up by, I think Donna Hardy did that, maybe some
Yeah.
family input, but it was like, very nice.
Very nice.
picture, too.
But on a less positive note, the delinquencies for the water and wastewater. There's some, I think there's people, I think I found a couple of people here that were deceased.
Mhm.
And fortunately, not all of them are deceased, but I want to be sure that we've either shut these people off or they're under agreements or somehow, but
Well-
some of these people have been on here for a long, long
long
time.
time,
and-
yeah.
Yes, I'm hopeful that when we reach the end of the emergency orders from the governor in July, that we'll also then have a freer hand to go back to a more routine process with our delinquent payers. And so that's the goal. I think that's going to expire in July. I've got my fingers crossed that they don't extend that to September, but stranger things have happened. If they don't, then the idea is twofold. We want to do some fairly, and we'll have to get back to you with people who are on plans, people who have failed to maintain their plans, and then people who are just plain delinquent. There will be some cleanups, accounts of businesses that have disappeared, aren't going to have any assets to attach to, as well as some folks who are deceased that we need to make some decisions on for bad debt, as well as pursue our discussion about a tax lien for September as well. So all that cleanup will be summer work as
Yeah.
we go forward for September. And I've got my fingers crossed that the state doesn't extend that portion of the emergency declaration. So
Right.
let's hope that that opens the door for us to be able to do that work.
There's some businesses on here that are still actively trying to occupy or sell their businesses, which doesn't make sense. They're still on here. And a bank. Why is a bank on here when delinquent? To me, that doesn't make any sense.
Probably came in title of somebody who was in
Close,
default.
yeah.
Yeah,
So, but I would have to check that to give you.
yeah. There's several
100%.
older ones, and not everyone, and there's a lot of people who are still alive who are not getting paid.
Necessary. And
Yeah.
again, I'm hopeful that the state will just be done with all these restrictions.
Mhm. Anything else, James?
No, that's great, thank you.
We're good.
Stefan? Jeff? I don't know if I have anything. I'm happy that things are loosening up. I'm happy that spring is here, and windy though it is, which is actually a good thing for everyone's breathing. And I guess I believe that the governor said as long as when you're outside, you don't have, for personal reasons, you don't have to wear a mask. Or if you're working outside, like my particular firm, you still have to wear a mask. But there is that. People still laugh sometimes when I'm walking down the street and put on my mask because, this figure trying to keep doing the right thing. I am still not inoculated. I know that apparently everybody at this board is, except for me. I am seriously considering it after the COVID scare we had at my household because of a visitor who was staying for short term, and he got COVID, but no one in the house did, and everyone was tested and is all negative, so we're good. So that's still a concern. Everyone still needs to be worried about it because there are still vulnerable people in our community that need us to get our shots. So that's all I have to say. And no need for an executive session this evening. And I'd like a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded?
I'll second that.
All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye. Thank you and good night.